Welcome to the Not Just Waiting podcast. I'm your host, Reanna, and this is a space for women learning to wait well and live fully. Whether you're in the middle of uncertainty, transition, or just figuring out what's next, this podcast is here to remind you you are not behind, not forgotten, and definitely not just waiting. Let's dig into truth, grow in courage, and hold on to hope together. Hey friends, welcome back to the Not Just Waiting podcast. Today I'm chatting with Kammy Brodecky, a former corporate marketing girl turned stay-at-home mom who's learning to slow down and savor God's goodness in every season. Kammy is married to her best friend and is a proud mama to her sweet, almost 2-year-old. Her story is one of grace, transformation, and learning to see God's faithfulness in the ordinary, everyday moments. Kammy loves sharing how Jesus continues to rewrite her story, one day, one moment, one testimony at a time. This conversation is a tender, real, and such a beautiful reminder that even in the waiting, God is working. Let's jump in. Hey friends, thank you so much for joining the Not Just Waiting podcast. I have a new internet bestie that I wanted to introduce you guys to. So this is Kammy. I found you on TikTok.
TikTok is right.
You went from nothing to how many thousand followers very quickly.
Yeah, I'm at 20 something now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a wild journey.
It was crazy. It was so fun to watch because you would pop up on my FYP and I'd be like, oh my goodness, she's speaking so much truth. And I would sit there and like him.
Mm-hmm.
You can like a thing more than once, but you can't.
Yeah.
Like and unlike as you your video progressed. And then I would comment and I'm like, this is good. And it just pops up every day. And I'm like, oh, I just needed that. I needed that encouragement. So guys, I needed to introduce you to Kammy if you're on TikTok. Yeah. She's on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, you should go follow her on TikTok, and we'll make sure that that's linked in our show notes. But I wanted to get her on and talk about waiting because it's the Not Just Waiting podcast and other cool things that the Lord's doing in her life. So, you're amazing. I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, all of our friends just learned about you in your bio. That's going to go before we start, so it's not like they don't know anything about you. They have your backstory. Cool.
My backstory. Okay, cool. Love that.
Awesome. So now that we've established that you're on TikTok, how did you get there? How did you just decide to do that? I didn't prep you for this. Sorry for that.
No, that's okay. I love this question because my family asks me all the time. They're like, when did this happen? What happened? And honestly, it was very random. When I think, I always say random, but then it's I look back and I'm like, okay, God was clearly doing a thing. But yeah, so I downloaded the app, I think in 2020 when everybody and their mother downloaded the app, right? But I was mostly just an observer. It was very fun for me to consume content. I never really post. I think I had posted maybe 3 posts, between April of this year and 2020. And so it was just kind of a fun, mind numbing activity to scroll as one does. And then, it was the beginning of 2024, I had just had my son and I had decided to quit my job and stay at home, be a stay-at-home mom. And it's the best decision I've ever made. But I just was finding that I needed more of a kind of a creative outlet. Motherhood is wonderful. It's a beautiful journey. It's been such a blessing. But for me, I'm a little bit more extroverted, and I people and interactions with people. They really fill me up. So then when you're going from living the corporate life, being in marketing and all the things, being in office and all this stuff, to just staying home, it felt there was an isolation period that I went through, which I think it certainly serves its purpose. I think it's important to kind of have that space to yourself, especially while you're, a new mother and are trying to navigate all these things. But as my son began to develop a little bit more, began to nap a little bit better, I was finding these pockets of free time throughout my day. And it was April of this year where I was just you know what? I'm just going to start actually posting, not just consuming content. I originally started out just trying to do motherhood, day in the life of a stay-at-home mom kind of thing. Just, I don't know. It was just a creative outlet for me. And then I actually, so I did that for 2 months and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. For those of you who don't know, for those of you who are not on TikTok, if you are a mother, the mom community on TikTok is a super tight-knit group. So initially I just I found my people. They're really supportive, really cool. I was this is fun. And then I actually found this other girl on TikTok. Her name is Gabby Garcia. She's actually a TikTok coach. I'm sure you've heard. She's like massive. But I had decided to join her coaching program because I was just like really intrigued by all the things she was saying. And I just felt this shift in my heart of being like, okay, if I'm going to be on this platform, whether my following is big or small, like numbers don't really matter to me. I kind of had this like calling of being like, I feel like I need to shift and like make this about Jesus. Like, yeah, it's cool. People can relate to like the motherhood side of things, but when I'm zooming out and I'm looking at this from a bigger perspective, I'm like, okay, what is my mission? What is my purpose? Like, why am I actually doing this? It's fun to do it just for cutesy little views and cutesy little videos, but I don't know. I just felt like something deeper was needed. So long story short, I ended up taking this course with Gabby Garcia. It's called Viral Growth House. If anyone's interested, let me know. She is a master at all things TikTok and how like learning how to grow your TikTok account and all that stuff. But I ended up taking a course from her and I just learned a couple of really valuable things that were just like little strategy tips on how to kind of like tweak my content and how to like frame what I wanted to say in a certain way. It was a really fun class. But during that class, things just really started to click for me on TikTok. And I was just like, I was finding my rhythm and I just felt like the Lord was like, all right, I want you to kind of move away from this like motherhood niche, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And like, if you're going to do this, like make it about me. Like it can't be about you. And so I was just like, okay. And so I started kind of honing in, focusing more on producing content that was like relevant and relating to what God was teaching me. And it just, it started resonating with people, which was really cool. And so that's kind of how we got here.
I love that. I love how the Lord just does stuff like that. Like he prepped, not that he prepped you in 2020, but like you downloaded the app. You kind of knew what was going on. You had
Yeah.
consumed content and then you had your little person. And it's like, okay, Lord, like, what are you going to do next? And he's like, oh,
Yeah.
I prepped you for this years ago. You didn't even know this
Yeah.
was a thing. I just
Yeah,
love when he does
exactly.
that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a really cool thing. I'm always like, because I love that this is, focused on the waiting because I think a lot of people feel like in motherhood, especially like those early years, like there is just a lot of like waiting. You're very reliant on God and like, you're tied to this other human being now. And so like you have to wait for like certain spaces or pockets of time to like open up to really kind of figure out what's going on. And those times can be really difficult. And so I feel like the Lord just met me in that and has kind of steered me in this direction.
That's amazing. So now that we've discussed that you have like a small person and you use
Yeah.
your free time to do TikTok, how do you make space for rest? Your free time. Yes, free time with quotes. How do you make space for rest, for creativity, for time with God in your daily life when you're literally finding pockets of time to do?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a great question. And yeah, like as you mentioned, I am a stay-at-home mom and like I love it. It is such a blessing. I don't want to do anything else with my life. I love my little person so much. But it's honestly it happened to be more of a mental shift about not necessarily trying to find like the perfect time. It was just like using the pockets of time that I had, right? Whether it's, all right, he's down, he's taken a 20-minute nap. How can I use this to like either be in the word or to just be reflecting, journaling, whatever that may be. So I think a lot of times as Christians, and even as non-believers who are curious, we get really caught up in being like, okay, what does like my quiet time look like? It has to be like these 30 minutes undisrupted in the morning. I have to have my cup of coffee. I have to like have my journal and my Bible, and it has to be like this very perfect little thing. And the Lord has just been teaching me that like it's not necessarily about finding the perfect time. It's more about inviting him into the space, like whatever space that you have, whether that's 5 minutes in the morning before my little one wakes up, whether it's just like a quick devotional, a quick prayer, a quick like little jaunt in the word. Um, and just learning to like be okay with that in this season. And I think a lot of times people get discouraged because they're like, oh my gosh, okay, well, I don't necessarily have, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, to like be spending in the word with God as much as we would want to. Sometimes life just doesn't allow for that. And I think God knows our hearts, right? So he knows whatever time that we have, if we can just surrender that and give that to him, that he will use that. And that also, it's most likely, at least for me personally, I won't speak for everyone, But I know that like this is a season for me, and that while my little one is very little, time is limited, right? He's very dependent on me still. And so while I do stay at home, it's like he's the boss, right? He
Yeah.
needs something like every 10 minutes. So, and I think just learning to, like I said, stop looking for the right moment or the perfect moment to like worship or spend time with God, just allowing him to meet me where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's a very freeing concept. I don't know about you, but, like,
Yeah.
growing up, you definitely, like, had to have your candle and your, like, special place in your house, and it had to be the
Yep.
same time every day,
Yep.
and you had to have a Bible reading plan, and you
Yep.
had to have a journal, and it was like, "I can't do this. This
I
is
can't.
stressing me out.
Yeah.
I can't do this." So
Yeah. And like I've always been like kind of like an all or nothing person. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can't like dive in and give God like the hour that I want to, like, I'm just not going to do it. But then it's like you just get in a cycle of just literally never doing it because when is life ever perfect, right?
right.
So it was just really has been a stretching time for me as well, just to kind of let go of that
Yeah.
control, I guess I would call it, and just give them what I've got in the moment.
Yeah, I feel that on the realest of levels right now,
Yeah.
like, the most real levels. So, we talked about how you jumped on TikTok and you just it kinda I don't wanna say fell in your lap, but when did you decide to take it seriously, like, this is your job, if that makes sense, instead of
Yes.
it just being a fun creative outlet?
Yes, yes, yes. That's a great point. For me, it was kind of like when I mentioned that course I took called Growth House Viral with or Growth Viral Growth House, whatever, it doesn't matter what it's called. With Gabby Garcia. It was like a paid coaching course, which that in itself was something I'm like, what am I doing? I've been on TikTok for 2 months. Like, why? Like, do I need a coach? Like, I'm still like learning. I still like feel like I can figure this out on my own. But I don't know. Are you familiar with Gabby Garcia? Have
Yeah,
you
I
seen her
see her
stuff?
stuff pop up all the time.
Okay. So she's not necessarily like in the faith space or anything
Yep.
like that, but she is just like I mentioned before, she is like a TikTok guru, social media guru. And I was just very intrigued by the strategy that she always talked about. And I don't know, she does a lot of TikTok lives. And so I popped into one of her lives and she was just like, doing her thing, talking about her strategy. And she's like, this can work for anyone. Like, it doesn't matter what niche you're in. You could be in the faith space. You could be like, trying to launch a business. Like, it doesn't matter what you're trying to do on TikTok. If you feel like in your heart, like this is something that you want to try, come invest this time with me and I'll like teach you how to do it. And so that in itself, I was like, as a stay-at-home mom, we're like on a single income, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, do I want to like spend the money to invest in this TikTok thing? Like, am I really going to take it seriously or should I just kind of keep doing this for fun? And so, like, money was a little bit tight. My husband ended up having to get a new car that was a little bit unexpected. So, like, we were not really in a place where we were looking to spend extra money, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. But I don't know. I just like felt this call in my spirit. And I was telling my husband this. And I was like, so I found this girl on TikTok. Her name is Gabby. She's like awesome. She's going to teach me like, how to like best use my time and my resources, like while I'm doing this TikTok thing. And I was fully expecting him to be like, babe, no, like, I'm sorry. Money's tight. Like, we just can't do that right now. But when I was talking to him and explaining to him that I wanted to sign up for this course, he was like, you know what? I don't know what it is, but I can see in your spirit that you are really passionate about this. And so he's like, this is just something we're going to give to the Lord. Like, we're going to spend
Yeah.
this money. It's not necessarily money that we didn't have, but it was just like, is it wise to do this right now?
Yes.
I don't know. We're going to leave that to God to decide. Um, and so since that moment, because I was more like financially invested, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like I actually have a dog in this fight now. I want to make sure that I'm taking this seriously, that I am using the time and resources that God has allowed me to have and make sure that I'm stewarding that well. So I went through, she teaches like an 8-week course. I'm not going to make this all about Gabby, but it was pivotal for me. And so I went to that 8-week course and that's kind of when I like buckled down. I was like, okay, I'm gonna, devote every moment that I can to this. That's obviously not disrupting my family. Any free time that I have. And I'm gonna like go hard for 8 weeks and just like see what happens, right? We get to the end of the 8 weeks and, we're just gonna let the Lord take it from there. And so I joined her course and things just really started clicking. I felt like I was really in tune with what the things that the Lord was sharing in my life, or things that the Lord was teaching me in my life, and just feeling really called to share them. And it just started hitting. It just started resonating with people. I just started getting, comments and DMs from people who were like, you have no idea how much I needed this word today. Like I was on the verge of, depression or anxiety or like whatever battle that they were fighting. And they're like, you popped up on my FYP and you gave me hope. And that is such like, for me, like, I'm like, that's awesome. But like, thank you, Jesus. Right.
Yeah.
Like I always want to be pointing back to Jesus. And I think that's just something that like kept resonating, kept coming into my inbox. And I was like, okay, I feel like this is where you want me, Lord. So I'm going to do my best to steward this and look at this more of as like a job versus like more willy nilly in my free time.
I love that, and I love that the Lord kind of, I don't wanna say dropped it in your lap, but He
A
had
little
been
bit
preparing
though.
you. Yeah, He had been preparing you, and then He put you in this season, and you're like, "Okay, now what?"
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like you were like, "Oh, yeah, I planned this 15 years ago when TikTok didn't exist." And so you're like, "Okay," and then He gives you these resources, and He nudges you with His Holy Spirit to like, "Hey, you're gonna wanna do this, jump in on this,"
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
like, now you have a platform, like a legit
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah. It's crazy. I'm still like, am I supposed to be here? I don't know. People are listening to me. What's going on?
Along the lines of having a platform, what has God kinda taught you about managing it and your influence with open hands? Because it can be really easy
Yes.
to be like, "Okay, I gotta do this, 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 and this." So what is he
Yeah.
teaching you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's honestly, it's like a daily, like there's like daily friction because I think as human beings, we just, as I alluded it before, like we are very control focused and we like want to be able to manage everything and like post what we want to post when we want to post. We want to know like the numbers. Okay, how many likes did that get? How many like views did that get? And like we're constantly just like analyzing and like wanting to control outcomes. And for me, this has been such a lesson in surrender. And I talk a lot about that on my page because, especially in social media, it's just so easy to be consumed by the numbers and the views
Mhm.
and the likes and are people commenting and like all that stuff is important. It's not inherently wrong. But I think if you start to focus a little bit too much on that, especially as like a faith-based creator, you start to lose focus of like, why? Like, why am I here? Like, I'm not necessarily here for views. Like, obviously, that's awesome. Like, if thousands of people are seeing my post, that means thousands of people are hearing about Jesus. And like, obviously, that's the ultimate goal. But learning to kind of switch off in your brain, like if you have a post and it flops, it gets like 100 views or whatever, reteaching your mind, like not to spiral and be like, oh, okay, well, I guess that video was terrible and nobody liked it. And like having a little pity party for yourself. Because the way I look at it, and I feel like what the Lord has been teaching me is just like, I am just doing my part. Like I am sharing what he has been laying on my heart and the rest is up to him. Right.
Mhm.
So if that video gets pushed out, people are resonating with it. Like I said, if it gets thousands of views, amazing. That is more opportunity for people to hear about Jesus or just, find community with somebody else who is a fellow believer. But it can be really hard not to get caught up in the numbers. And it's just like anything, I'm big into like spiritual warfare. So it's just like
Yeah.
like anything, like you wake up every day and like you have to choose this, right? You have to choose to be, focused on Christ. You have to choose to like die to self every single day. And it's just like a day by day journey. And I think, the more that I've started to post and the more I've started to get into a rhythm, it has become a little bit more natural to me. But I also am human and I have those days where I'm like, oh, that post got 200 views. Like, what am I even doing? Like, God, why am I here? And then I'm like, wait, okay, I just made that all about myself. Like, I've said it in a couple of my videos, like, I don't care if I get 20 views or like 200,000 views. If it reached one person, if it made one person feel like they could have hope, like they could wake up the next day and have joy, then like my job is done, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I try to just have that mindset of going into it and being like you mentioned before, this is a platform, this is a resource that God has blessed me with. Like none of this is mine. And so just reminding myself to just, you know, play my part in what God has called me to do and leave the rest up to him.
Yes. Yes. I normally have my yes button, but I still haven't found it. We moved and I haven't found it. So, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Talking about just being in this season, it's called the Not Just Waiting podcast. So we talk about waiting a lot. So how are you waiting well in this season? Because everybody is waiting for something, even if it's just for Jesus to come back. Like
Mhm,
everyone is
mhm.
waiting for something. So how are you
Absolutely.
waiting well in this season? Because a lot of times we want to sit on our couch and watch Netflix and eat cookies, and that's not the most productive.
Yeah. Well,
So how do we
I've done that too.
I mean, there's a time and a place. There is definitely a time and place. So how are you actively waiting for the Lord to move and work in this season?
Yeah, so that's so good, and I think it's been like everything, it's been a journey, and I think it's just learning how to trust that even in the waiting, even in the quiet, that God is still moving, right?
Yes.
And so it's obviously like much easier said than done. I don't claim to be perfect at this by any means, but it's like I'm learning to like stop rushing and being like, okay, like I want this outcome for whether it's my TikTok or for my family or like whatever it may be. I'm actively learning or unlearning how to not rush things and like know that God is still writing stuff even when I can't feel it or I can't see it, which is very challenging. But it's
Mm,
like a lot of times in those moments, in those seasons of waiting, I try to take that time and reflect and be like, okay, let me look back on my life and see like I have obviously been through waiting periods before, right? As we all have. And like, God has never let me down. Like, He
yes.
has always shown up in some way or another. Now, it may not be the way that I hoped He was going to show up, right? It might not be the answered prayer that like I was hoping for, but He still showed up. And whether it was a no or a closed door, like He was still there, even when I couldn't feel it.
Mhm.
And so just making sure that I'm using that time and like to do my own part and to just honestly, like I've said probably 100 times by now, just like trust that he is doing his thing and that in his timing, everything will work out because I have a track record that is my past to know that God has shown up for me. And so I think it's just like not being a prisoner to those like intrusive thoughts that we get, like, okay, I haven't heard from God, or like he's not moving in the situation the way that I hoped he would. He's not healing me in this way. He's not healing my friends in this way, my family, whatever. But just, scripture says that God is the same yesterday and today and
Mhm.
forever. And so just remembering that like he has always been faithful to us. So
Yes.
even though I can't hear him right now, or even though I don't know what he's doing or where he's taking me, which has honestly been most of this TikTok journey, I've kind of just been like, okay, God, like, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm just like trusting that you are doing a work here in me. And I'm hoping that through that, people will be inspired, right, to
Yeah.
just trust God when they can't feel him or they can't see what's going on, because knowing that God is faithful, knowing that he is going to show up and that his timing is also like perfect, right? So a lot of times our finite brains can't really comprehend what God is doing because
Yeah.
he exists so far outside of that, right? But just remembering that whatever he's doing is probably so much better than what I like would have or could have hoped for my present or my future. And so
Absolutely.
just try to lean into that, and knowing it comes from a God who remains the same, I think is kind of what drives me, if that makes sense.
Yes, that was so good. That was such an encouragement because
Yeah.
everybody's in that, like, everybody is struggling with trust and
Yeah.
remembering that the Lord is faithful, even though we've seen him be faithful over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, the next crisis, you're like, but Lord, are you going to fix it?
Are
And
you
you're like,
gonna
well,
be?
wait, you did. You fixed that thing and
Yep.
that one and
Yep.
that one. And you left
Yep.
that check in my mailbox. And
Yep.
yeah, we've
And I've
all been there.
started like I was never really a big journaler before this year. I mean, I've been a Christian forever, and so that's like very big in the Christian space, but
Yeah.
I don't know, it just never really resonated with me, but I've started to just like write things down, right? In ways that I've seen God show up for me that were unexpected, or just like prayers that I'm like, God, I'm really struggling with this. Like, I don't know how to navigate this situation. I don't know what to do. Lord, give me wisdom and discernment. And I start
Oh,
to like write these things down because then it helps. Like when you're actually going through a situation, you can literally pull out something physical and be like, look, okay, this was the year that I was like struggling with X, Y, and Z. I didn't know how I was going to make it through, but the Lord showed up. And it's like
uh-huh.
this reminder of my past. That's like, okay, like I mentioned before, God has never let me down. He is so faithful, and he will do it again.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that was so good. Is there anything else you want to share with us today?
I don't think so. I think that's it. I mean, like I mentioned, I have been going through this surrender series on my TikTok page.
Uh-huh.
And I just feel like it's so relevant. Like you said, we have all been struggling with that trust factor and just like learning how to surrender. And so I have been creating a guide that kind of I mean, it's not perfect, right? But it's just some things that have helped me, like a little daily devotional, a little time to reflect. If you're new to the faith, maybe you're a baby Christian and you're like, I don't really even know like how to pray. Like, I don't even know like what words to say. There's a guy that kind of walks you through just those easy, like short steps to kind of make in that direction. Um, so if anybody is interested in that, please feel free to go check that out. I'm sure you have the link already, Rihanna.
Yes, I
But
will link it.
yeah, but I'm really excited about that. It's something that the Lord has been teaching me, and I say again in my videos, like I may have this platform, but I'm no different than you and anybody else. Like these are very real things that I'm walking through, and then I'm just sharing what the Lord is teaching me through that, and like how I'm trying to cope with that in the best way that I know how. So I just wanted to encourage anybody else out there who might be struggling with trusting God or figuring out how to surrender certain areas of your life to Him, that you're not alone. Let's do it together.
Thank you so much for this encouragement and your just faithfulness and doing what the Lord's asking you to do, even when you're like, I don't know what's going on. So thank you for just following Jesus and all the things that he tells you to do. And thank you for encouraging us. You're amazing.
Of
Let's do this
course.
again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Friends, I'm gonna link all of her stuff in our show notes. So, like her TikTok. And if you're like, Rihanna, I'm not on TikTok. Did you know that Google is connected to TikTok and you can look at her videos without having a TikTok account?
This is
So, if
true.
you're like, I don't have TikTok, friend, there is Google. It is the best. You can go look at all of her stuff without having an account. But it has been a joy and a privilege. Thank you so much. And friends, we'll see you next
Word.
week. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Not Just Waiting podcast. I hope today reminded you that even in the in between, God is working and you are not alone. If this episode encouraged you, would you share it with a friend? And don't forget to hit follow so you never miss a moment of truth, hope, and real conversation. You can find me on Instagram at reanna.ivy.hoff and join the community over on Substack for deeper reflections and weekly encouragement. Until next time, take heart, friend. God is in the waiting with you.